Hello friends, and welcome once again to the Gesundheit Kitchen. I am here visiting with my friend Dr. Ellen Steinberg, and any excuse is a good excuse for us to hang out. But I know you are a big enthusiast of some outdoor activities. You do
Absolutely.
Mountain biking,
Yep.
hiking. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I mean that's a big part. Like if you have a day off,
I'm outside.
you're doing something.
Even when it's raining, I will figure it out.
Same
Yes.
here.
Yes.
I feel like at times I am a caged animal if I can't get out and do something. But I think the thing that really was my kind of go-to, especially when I was in the hospital, my oncologist, my surgeon said, look, the fastest way out of here is walking out the door. And so they encouraged me, even with 2 IV poles, to get in, walk through the hospital, walk down to the cafeteria, even when I couldn't eat, just to start walking, to get everything moving again, right?
Yes.
Moving motility-wise, I mean, because sometimes after surgery, things don't move, right? It's a construction zone, and nothing's working. And then, but particularly as you start to rehab, as you start to go, that kind of sends the signal to the brain, hey,
Let's go.
We're getting back on track, literally and figuratively. So I just came back from a conference, and I was so motivated. And I was in Germany, and everybody walks everywhere in Germany, and the infrastructure is kind of set up for that. And it's part of the culture. You eat and you have a cup of coffee, and then you go and take a walk.
Right.
And I think that is something that I'm seeing more and more of, and particularly in Europe for patients with post-gastrectomy, they're telling them, they're almost prescribing for them of doing a post-meal walk. So let's talk a little bit about digestion and walking or exercise.
And I love it that it was discussed. And, when you think about Europe and states or cities where there's a lot of things to do outside, it sometimes when people are in a living situation that it's not all that great to go out and walk, they aren't as inclined. So there's even ways that we'll talk about it that they can incorporate it as well. But to your point about walking specifically, especially after meals, and the fancy term is postprandial meal. Yes.
I didn't
so
get postprandial.
So all the studies typically are like, the effects of walking postprandial after a meal. It's very interesting because it is conclusive evidence that even if you stroll after a meal, it lowers your blood glucose. So, you and I have talked a lot about how sometimes you will eat something and your sugar will go straight up, your blood sugar. Even by walking around the house, well, preferably outside or somewhere where you can get some distance, but it doesn't have to be a fast walk. It could be a literal stroll. And that will help bring down your blood sugar. So especially for people where blood glucose control is a problem, that would be a great way to help remedy that.
Well, as I said, that's a cultural thing in a lot of countries where that's just sort of you're done eating. Now, I will say in the era I grew up, that usually included a cigarette. Not that I ever did, but
Right.
I remember, my parents, grandparents, saying, "Hey, let's go for a walk afterwards," and they would light up that thing, and it's like, wait, I think you're negating some of the benefits here. But I think it's such a smart move, and I anecdotally, I oftentimes do have that. I mean, often it's almost guaranteed that, especially if I've eaten. When I'm traveling or I'm with friends and I eat a little more than I typically might, I sneak a few more calories in because I'm always trying to get those calories in, but there's a threshold beyond which I go off a cliff. But having that walk, as you said, even if it's just around the block or parking intentionally far away, you know what I mean, just to get to the restaurant and go back, it really does, it does something to make me feel better. And I will tell you, that on the days that I genuinely don't feel like walking, when I force myself to do it, almost without fail, I feel better for doing it.
So much better, yes. And as you said, it always cracks me up, like when you go to a gym and you see people waiting for a parking space that's close up. It's like, you're at a gym,
exactly.
Just park farther away, right? But when you think about walking, yes, when you're in that mindset of talking yourself out of it, that's when you need to go. You've wasted so much time already thinking, I don't feel like it, but when you say, I will feel so much better. And one thing that stuck with me a while back, if you change your language from I have to go to a walk for a walk, or I can go
Sure.
for a
Or
walk.
I get to.
I
Yeah,
get to
yeah,
go
that's
for
right.
a walk. That changes your entire mindset.
You know, I'm lucky enough to live in a small town that has pretty good walking trails or availability. The sidewalks I wouldn't want to push a stroller on them, but I can take a walk. And I've kind of set out my short walk, which is around town, my medium walk, which meanders, and then I have my long walk, which is about a 2.5 mile
Oh, that's
loop.
great.
So on the days where I've eaten something, and it's usually, again, no one's ever actively force fed me. But so maybe I'll be fine with a half of that cookie, and I can only blame myself for some of these decisions. So at the moment when I think I should take a walk, I go through all the reasons I shouldn't, because I don't feel great and I feel a little bloaty and my blood sugar's off. So I'll talk myself into taking the short walk. I think, well, maybe if I can just push myself to do the one loop around the heart of downtown, which is about a 3/4 of a mile. But I find that once I've started that short walk, all those feel good, chemicals start kicking in. The dopamine, the norepinephrine, and these are not illegal drugs. These are the ones that your body,
drugs, yes.
they're the natural feel good drugs that are when we laugh, when we smile, when you hug somebody you haven't seen in a while. All of those things trigger the release of those things. So by the time I've done the short walk, now there have been days where I genuinely didn't feel good. I'll go home, but most of the days, if I can make the small walk, I'm at that point. Should I go home or go for the medium? I'll go for the medium route. And then oftentimes I'll get to the medium route. Do I go home or do I go for the long? And by that point,
you're good.
I'm good. So I've not only talked myself out of that negative, that negative place. I have physically lifted myself out of that. I feel better.
Absolutely. And I similarly will say to myself, all right, if I go for a walk or if I go for a swim, I'm going to allow myself to do it slow and easy.
Yep.
And I get in the pool or I start taking my walk or my bike ride, and I'm like, ugh, and it will be slow.
Oh, it's a grind at first.
It is, and my legs will, everything just feels
Yep.
ugh. But as you said, the longer you stay in it, the brain starts to catch up.
Yep.
And it's like, wow, I feel pretty good.
It's wild that we are our best advocates and we're also our own worst enemies, right? I mean, like the conversations we have, sometimes they're embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
who said I couldn't take this walk? Because again, on my way home from that long walk, I'm feeling like, man, I feel great.
Yes.
So I love the fact that we have that power. I know I've said it before. My dad once taught me that happiness is not a person, place, or thing. It's a decision. But obviously, when you have a health issue, sometimes it's not quite that that hang in there poster kind of
Right.
memeable. But I do think that you possess more power to change how you feel than you give yourself credit for some days. And oftentimes we give too much power to that negative voice saying, it might be better to sit on the couch. But I do want to talk about exercise on the couch because, as you said, not everybody has access to that, or a gym or a treadmill. But I was at this conference I attended. There was a doctor from Helsinki that had done a 7-year study talking about how basic exercise, even if you are bedridden, and he was saying even just stretching your arms to the full extent that you can stretch them, stretching them above your head, lifting your legs, even if you're sitting on the side of the sofa, go 10 rounds of just, it's not trying to hurt yourself, but it's part stretching, part movement. That simple movements like that, again, kick in those great feel-good hormones, aid in digestion, and it gets things going. But even more importantly, if you're actively on chemotherapy, they have shown definitively that the effectiveness or the efficacy of the chemotherapy drug goes up when it's coupled with basic minimal exercise. I'm not talking, Olympic training.
No.
It's just move that body.
And literally get your blood pumping.
Yep.
And for those who are having trouble, even if you set a goal, like we
Yep.
are both wearing
Got
our
to.
activity watches, at the end of the day, if I'm running low on steps, I think, you know what, tomorrow you've really got to step up somehow make it visual.
I love that.
Make it so that you are able to keep track of what you're doing. And
self-accountability?
And always set a new goal, even if it's 10 steps more. It was 10 more than yesterday. And don't belittle yourself if you only have it in you to go from one
Right.
part of the room
Right.
to another.
I will say this has induced a little bit of guilt at first.
It does.
My
It
early
does.
relationship with my smartwatch, I would be like, oh my God, it's nagging me.
Right, it's
But
stop.
sometimes you need that. 'Cause people pay good money and hire coaches to sit there and scream at them to make them
Yes.
exercise. They're not screaming at me. It's just kind of like funking me every now and then saying, hey, it's 6 o'clock in the afternoon. You haven't taken your walk yet, and sometimes you need that constant, steady pressure to kind of push you forward.
And there's things you can do in your house. Like, let's say you really are just home from the hospital and you really are down and out. Move something that you typically need, like let's say the remote to the TV. Move it 100 feet away or have someone move it for you. So if you want to change the channel, you have to stand up and change the channel. So do something to incorporate just enough, as you said, to get the blood flowing and get you out of that sedentary position.
Well, and the doctor that I mentioned from Finland was even talking about, water. We know how much water weighs. In metric, I don't, but I know in our system, it's 8 pounds to the gallon.
Right.
So you know that a half a gallon of milk or water is 4 pounds.
Yes.
If you don't have fancy equipment, you get a couple of half gallons, and you're not trying to break any world records, but it's just a great way to just have a little bit of resistance, keep everything moving, stretch, and the difference, even in the morning, you wake up in that fog and you feel like, man, this is going to be a bad day. Don't let a bad morning turn into a bad day, right? So little things like that are going to jumpstart those feel-good hormones, and I promise you, you're allowed to have a bad day. I'm not trying to sell you a magic pill. Not every day is going to be Pollyanna, but I guarantee you, the percentage goes up if you can incorporate some kind of movement.
But what you just said is so true, because if I talk myself out of it, the rest of the day I have negative self-talk.
No, I agree.
Well, you didn't work out this morning, you didn't do this. So, like you said, even if it's okay, I don't really feel like it right now, but I'm still going to get up.
Yep.
I'm going to do a little bit of walking. Everything you do is so positive. And with the stretching, gosh, when people hurt, the best thing they can do is move.
Yep.
It's when you stay like that and, oh, I hurt so
Yeah,
bad.
and then it limits your eventual long-term mobility because the muscles kind of reset that way.
Yes, it's like that's when you need it most.
No, when you feel least like doing it is oftentimes when you and pushing yourself is something that might not be one of the cards that you were handed in your early life sometimes, but it is a learned skill that you can learn to kind of self-coach and self-move yourself forward. And I think that you're your own best advocate. You know this machine better than your doctors do. If you're not feeling 100%, obviously don't ignore the signs. You can't push through everything. But if it's just a day where you're just not feeling 100%, if you're having one of those ennui days, I just throw a fancy word in there.
That is.
That you can just, there's a lot you can do to help right the ship there.
And my last comment about that, even when, always be in the best shape. Sometimes if you ask somebody, how are they feeling? I'm in pretty good shape for the shape I'm in.
Yeah.
So accept the shape you're in, accept where you're at, but be the best version of that you can. And I think that bringing in exercise says to you, I'm doing the best I can.
In this moment. This is the chapter that I am in this book, and I'm doing.
And here we are, but let me give it my best version of myself.
I love it. On that note, I feel like we should go take a walk.
I would love to. Let's go.
Yeah, just so that somebody has to follow us around the camera. No,
that's right,
we
and we can
won't
look
make them
important.
Listen, as always, thank you for tuning in. We have a great time talking sometimes about serious and not so fun things, but they're important things that need to be talked about, things that will become a part of who you are going forward. As you establish your new normal, as you kind of find equilibrium, and don't be afraid to ask somebody for help too. If you feel like you're having a day that's above and beyond sort of normal blah, it's okay to speak up and say that too. It took me a long time to learn that. So thank you again, as always.
Always fun.
Take care of yourself.